இப்போ சொல்ல.
இது போட்டு ஷேர் பண்ணிடுறீங்களா ஒரே நிமிஷம்? तस्माद् विराट जायत विराजो अधिपूरुषः स जातो अत्यर्च्यत पश्चात् भूमिमथो पुरः यत्पुरुषेण हविषा देवा यज्ञमतन्वत वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यम् ग्रीष्म इध्म शरद्धविः.
First class. Super. So we're talking about the process of creation here. Tasmaad Virata Jayata. So Virat came from Tasmat, from that. So what you remember till the 4th verse, we saw the most important thing was about this Purusha being 3 parts outside of this creative principle and only 1 part. Pado osya vishwa bhutani tripadasya mritam divi. 3 parts of him is beyond this creative realm, which means there is an aspect that is outside something that we can experience as material. Reminded of this. Another Kalpaka and the Idila Gunala Epdi Solwa Kamal. Adukum Tandi.
அதையும் தாண்டி புனிதமானது.
அதையும் தாண்டி புனிதமானது அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்க. அது மாதிரி, this is something that is beyond our realm of experience in the normal sense. Experience is also in the realm of material. Actually, it's very interesting. There's something called as Triputi. Triputi are things that go in triads or threes. And in Vedanta, the Triputis are usually the enjoyer, the enjoyed, the enjoyer, the enjoyment, and the object of enjoyment. The experiencer, the experience, and the object of experience. So there is the experiencer is the person who's experiencing. There is an object that he is experiencing, and there is an experience that is happening. So this is called a Triputi. And the knowledge of the self is beyond these 3. Which means it descends as an experience. The understanding descends as an experience, but the understanding itself is not an experience. This is something that is also important to understand, particularly for those who are in a very involved in sadhana. A lot of times we mistake spiritual growth to an experience. So today I may have had a beautiful experience of something. I did meditation, I had wonderful experience. Or I went to a temple, I had a beautiful experience. Or I went to a mountain or a hilltop, or I went to the ocean, I had very beautiful experience. Now, experience becomes a channel to understand the spiritual truth, the unity of things. Sorry. Experience becomes a conduit or a channel to know the reality of existence. If I stand in front of the ocean and there is this beautiful wind blowing, and then I hear the sound of the waves, and there are trees around, and assuming there is nobody there, and it's just you and the ocean and the trees and nature and the sky, and probably at a distance you see a mountain and a hill, there can be an experience of oneness. There can be an experience of an instantaneous impromptu or an instantaneous experience of suddenly you dissolving and just that experience there. Like for example, when we traveled to Mount Kailash Manasarovar Yatra poirche, we halt at Nepal for 2 days, for a day or two, because that is the time when your passport is sent to the Chinese immigration and they give you the visa stamp. So in Nepal, we got the opportunity to take a flight, and it's a 45-minute chartered flight. It goes over the Himalayas. And it's a chartered flight, a propeller driven flight. And there are about 20-25 people can sit in that flight. And it goes over the Himalayas and it will go to some distance, and they will point you to Mount Everest at a distance. You'll be able to see the peak, and you'll come back. But that 45 minutes is obviously a lot of sound because it's a propeller engine. There'll be a lot of sound of the machine itself. But when you go above the Himalayas, it's an inexplicable experience. How much ever you see that on television, when you're right above the Himalayas and you see peaks and peaks and peaks of white mountains and mountain ranges of white color spread all over, it is an extremely different exasperate. It's an experience of complete stillness actually. So what happened is, after that, when that came back, several of us became very quiet. I noticed that many of us become very quiet. We didn't want to speak. We didn't want to say anything. We didn't want to say, wow, nothing. Although this propeller was going on, there was a stunning silence that was there, and that it was palpable. You could feel that silence. And when you come back and you landed, everybody was like, at least a few people who had received it this way, they were like dazed and they were just walking around like that. And I still remember that experience. It was very consuming, because you felt your existence, your identity, your existence dissolved for a period of time completely. And all that was there was a silence, and you didn't feel like you wanted to break the silence. Now, what has happened here? This experience gave you an access or a window or a channel opening into truth, into reality, into the presence of silence. It gave you a window. Now, the next time I go on the same flight, will I experience the same thing? I don't know. But if I yanker or I yearn for that, I should try to get the same experience, I don't know if I will. Right? I don't know if I'll get the same experience. Because the mind is already now made something out of it. And will it work the same way? I don't know. Now, what I need to understand there is, this experience gave me an access to truth, access to silence. That is what I need to hold on to. And that is what it means by going beyond the Triputi. Right? And so when he is explained as the Tripadasya Amritam Divi, what it means is that he is beyond this plane of experience. He is that silence, that truth that cannot be experienced in words. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, many a times he would go into Bhava Samadhi during his Nama Sankirtanam or whatever. And people will come and ask, what are you experiencing? What is that experience that you're having? He will try to say it, but his throat will choke. He'll not be able to speak. Because that And all of us have this. If you become sensitive enough through regular sadhana, study, and all of that, you will notice that there are these windows that open up through the experience. See, suddenly sometimes my daughter had this experience in Chidambaram Nataraja temple. She was sitting there, and we all did the tattu kumbudu and all dance, the idu pannittu Natarajarku munnadi they did that, and they sat down. A few of the girls had gone, and then when she sat, the gong went, the bell, Kovil Mani. And then she said she completely she was transported into some different state. And then after some time, 12 minutes or so, somebody had to come and shake her up, saying that, yes, wake up, get up, we have to go. And then what happened in this 12 minutes, it's difficult for her to explain, but she felt completely not in the body, and she had a very subtle experience. Now, will that same thing happen again? She goes to Nataraja temple? No. But what has happened there is, without her, she probably somewhere, she had become sensitive enough to receive that state within. And a lot of us go through this. Anga ninundirupom, திடீர்னு without in the Kovil or someplace we'll be standing, suddenly without knowing, our mind will go completely turn off, and you'll have tears in your eyes just by looking at the altar, Bhagavan. What is happening is, through that experience, we are getting a window to that truth. It can be experienced, and which is what people experience the same truth in different ways. Ekam sat vipra bahudha vadanti. The same truth can be experienced. Some people will have tears, some people will either cry, some people will feel joyful, some people will become silent, some people will want to sing, shout. Same thing, the same truth. They'll experience it differently. So the Tripadasya Amritam Divi, which means that this experience also, you don't hanker on to that experience. You don't hold on to that experience. You look at the truth that you got to know through that experience. The silence that you got to know. Here, you're not experiencing silence. You are in touch with silence. See, there is a big difference between experiencing silence and being in touch with silence. Experiencing silence means silence is an object of experience. You have too much noise, suddenly all the noise is gone down, now you're experiencing silence. That is experiencing silence. But when you have these very, very subtle instances of recognition of the truth as silence, you're in touch with that reality that is there. It is so alive that you're able to touch it. Now that is beyond the realm of this creative principle. And see, the beauty is, God has given us as humans the ability to rise above this and touch that. We've been given that ability. What happens is, we do what we have to do and just be receptive. We do the sadhana, we do our chantings, we do our dhyana, we do our nama sankirtanam, we do our japa, we do our satsanga, all of this, and be sensitive to receive. Enga venal nadakalam. It can, if you're wanting, you go to Kashi wanting to experience something profound, you may not experience there. But when you're coming back in the bus from Kashi, suddenly you will have a beautiful experience somewhere. We'll not know where it will occur. We'll be receiving to that. So what the Rishi is going on to say is, this is that Tripadasya Amritam Divi. From there, from that Purusha, comes Virata. From Virata comes Adhipurushaha. Virajo Adhipurushaha. So Virat is the immediate expression of that. So if you look at the Tripadasya, the Tripada of the Purusha, as the Purusha. Then from that Virata is the Ekapada. The Padosya Vishwa Bhutani is the Ekapada, is the Pada, the quarter part that comes as Virata. From that comes Adhipurushaha. And this Adhipurushaha, he says, is the creative principle. Sajato Atyarichyata. So this, because it's all spoken about Purusha, if you want, for our understanding, we want to relate it to something, we can say the supreme being is the Purusha. Then comes Prakriti. From Prakriti comes the Triguna. And the Triguna is the creative principle. The whole creation, whether it being matter, to mineral, to plants, to animal, to human, to devas, to kinnaras, to gandharvas, all of them are part of this Triguna. Trigunatmika samsara. They are all part of this Trigunatmika samsara. So Purusha is the Tripada, the one who is beyond all of this. That Purusha. From that comes the Virata. Consider Virata as Prakriti. And from Virata comes Adhipurushaha. Consider that as the Trigunas. From that, the whole creation begins. Right? So I've told this once in the way my guru has explained how creation has happened from the three gunas. Just consider three gunas as the three colors, primary colors, RGB, red, green, blue. And these are the three primary colors from which every other color has come out. Now for printing, they use different CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and something they use. But if you look at the cathode ray tubes, etc., the TVs of earlier days, the primary colors are RGB, red, blue, green. And white and black are combinations of this. You make RGB as 0, you have white. You make RGB as completely full, you get black. And everything in between is the different combinations of RGB. And RGB is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, if you look at it that way. These are three colors and three gunas, and these three gunas in various combinations create this world, Prapancha. From the three gunas come the Pancha Tanmatras, and from that comes the Pancha Mahabhuta, etc. So this Prapancha comes from the three gunas. This is the Sankhya way of looking at it. And also, this is the accepted way of looking at how creation has happened in the Vedanta way of seeing the world. Now, what he says is, Tasmat Virata Jayata. Tasmat, from that Purusha comes Virata, from Virata comes Adhipurushaha, and Sajato Atyarichyata. So now from this Purusha, everything grows. Paschat Bhumimatho Puraha. Now this whole, he creates this earth. So he creates this whole Brahmanda, who the Adhipurusha creates this whole cosmic creation of Brahmanda, and from that earth also gets created Bhumimatho Puraha. Paschat means after that. Bhumim Ataha Puraha. He becomes this body, his body becomes this earth. Okay, so this is the sequence of creation that they are trying to narrate. How from the unmanifest, from the avyakta comes the vyakta. That process. And then he goes on to say, Yat Purushena Havisha Deva Yajnamatanvata Vasanto Asya Sidajyam Grishma Idma Sharadhavihi Yat Purushena Havisha. So now creation has occurred. But to sustain the creation, you need to do yajna. You have to do yajna. Now, when we say yajna, again, we have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita also. Yajna is essentially the process of yajna is essentially a cycle, a cyclical process. It's the process of if you want something, you give something. That is the process. Simple. In simple terms, yajna means you want something, you give something. Even attaining to Brahmajnana, it's called as a yajna. What are you giving? You are giving up your ego. You give up your ego, you'll get Brahmajnana. So, yedavadu venumna, yedavadu kudukanum. We have to always, and the process is not to get first. The process is I'll give and then hopefully I'll get something. And if you believe and trust in the process of yajna, you'll always get what you deserve and what is best for you. Because we trust in the process. Because the process is established for two purposes. One is to sustain this creation, and two, there is this grace of the Lord, anugraha. Anugraha for what? Anugraha to dissolve us back into the source. This is anugraha. Anugraha that we experience everywhere is every step of anugraha. See, we should raise our mind. See, we've been doing satsanga for so long. It's important to bring ourselves to a point to think of any anugraha you seek. Imagine, seek anugraha for moksha. Seek anugraha for nivritti, which means seek anugraha to be absolved in the self, to resolve into the self. Seek anugraha so that my mind doesn't wander. Seek anugraha so that I'm able to experience joy in everything that I'm doing. Seek anugraha to be able to give. This is anugraha is very important to understand what we are asking, seeking anugraha, or when we get some kind of anugraha or blessing. Anugraha means blessing. Perival blessing, parents blessing, Mahankal blessing, whatever from saints, sages, rishi, sannyasi, somebody's blessing we get. We should go with this bhava always to anybody. Nallabadiya exam la pass agatum, Swamiji. Yes, you need anugraha. But then what? May I get jnanam? See, we have all come to a point where we should know what we have to ask for also. Right? Ippodhikku exam pass agatum so that he can invest himself in self-exploration, so that he can go deeper in the exploration of truth. All parents should seek that for their children. என்னாலதான் முடியல, பசங்களுக்காவது கிடைக்கட்டுமே. Very important, because we have understood the importance of it. Right? Because we may say that, okay, I've been here for, it's a lot of things are difficult. Maybe in the janmatla mudima mudiyada, but then we at least seek for our children. We teach them to seek this from a very young age. Why? Because we have recognized the importance of it. So this anugraha is what we seek, and this anugraha is the process of receiving after we have given up something. That is yajna. I remember very beautiful, a very interesting example where my very young, I was very small, and my mama had gone to some Swami, and he asked, எனக்கு அனுகிரகம் வேணும் Swami. I want, because my mama was also in a way on a spiritual journey, and he was doing his sadhana and all of that, and went and asked the Swami. And then the Swami blessed him, and he laughed. And then Swami, எதுக்கு சிரிக்கிறீர்கள்? Why are you laughing? He said, நான் கொடுக்கிறேன், நீ எடுத்துக்கலையேப்பா அப்படின்றார். It's very profound. Now, my mama will be thinking, what am I to do to receive it? Right? How do I fix this situation? So the situation is fixed by giving. By giving means what? Not necessarily. Acts of giving on the outside are important. We give our time, our energy, our efforts, our money, our knowledge, whatever we give. But giving from within is also important. Giving means we give up. Giving means giving up what? Giving up the severe anticipation, the severe desires. Giving up. Giving up means, in a way, giving up the anxiety within us. Baba also tells his bhaktas that people are asking for this, that, but his father is saying, take spiritual wealth. Yet nobody asks for it. Correct? So that giving is what we need to develop. We have developed a lot of ability to take, to receive. And a lot of times we think the world is unfair. There are friends of mine who are getting this, that, and the other. I don't get. There are people I know get this, that I am not getting. Because our focus always from childhood has been towards taking, asking, receiving. I want to receive. Have we made ourselves capable of receiving? Like someone went to Ramana Maharshi and said, Bhagavane, unga anugraham venum. I need your grace. Bhagavan said, anugraham thane pa irukku அப்படின்னாரு. There is grace alone. Grace alone exists. நீ நடுவுல வராம இரு போறோம் அப்படின்றாரு. You don't come in between. It is so, man, I mean, people of that stature will make very simple statement that's so profound. It's phenomenally profound. அனுகிரகம் தானேப்பா இருக்கு, நீ நடுவுல வராத அப்படின்னா எங்க டக்குன்னு என்ன பண்ணுவான், திரும்பி பார்ப்பா, நான் எங்க நடுவுல எங்க இருக்கேன் சார் அப்படின்னா. But somebody who gets it will get it. நீ நடுவுல வர, இந்த நான் நடுவுல வர்றது தானே பிரச்சனை. எனக்கு அனுகிரகம் வேணும் நான் அப்படிங்கிறது வருது இல்ல. That is coming in between the anugraha and the real self. So yajna in that form, you'll see in subsequent verses also, yajna is glorified in the Purusha Suktam, because yajna is important, extremely important. The aspect to give up. Ennodhu, enadu, na, these things slowly will dissolve. These things doesn't mean, like, for example, there's another example that is also said. Swamiji, there is a snake in a village and everybody was afraid of the snake. Then Swamiji came back and the snake happened to listen to satsang of the Swamiji. And then you've told you should, Swamiji, you've told that you should not be violent, you should follow ahimsa and all of that. And then what it does is it becomes very docile, the snake. And then people get to know that there is a snake there and they go beat it up. Then the Swamiji passes by that village again and the snake is all battered up. And then the Swamiji says, what happened to you? Swamiji, you only taught me to be, I should not harm people, I should not be violent. So I became very docile. He said, but I didn't tell you not to hiss. People are coming to hit you or beat you. I didn't tell you don't hiss. You can at least scare them off to say that don't come and harm me. So that much amount of, practical or whatever, tactical understanding we must develop. But when we give up all of this, from a tactical standpoint, whatever needs from a transaction we engage, we do that. Right? Obviously, when you're engaging with somebody, you've got to say that, yeah, this is my thing, this I'm doing this, I've taken accountability, I will deliver this. You have to say that. அந்த இடத்துல போய் யூ கான்ட் சே இல்லை எனக்கு யார் வேணாலும் பண்ணுங்கப்பா என்ன வேணாலும் பண்ணுங்க. அடுத்த நாள் கூப்பிட்டு உத தான் கொடுப்பான். We need to know where to apply Vedanta also. எனக்கு சரியில்லை தெரியல சார், அது கிருஷ்ணர் சொல்லியிருக்காரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ஏன் அந்த கிருஷ்ணனை கூப்பிடு, அவனை வேலை போட்டு கொடுத்தான் அவனுக்கு அப்படிப்பா. So important to know where to apply these things. What we are saying here is, within us we practice this ability to give up these things, and also give up the hankering for experiences, desire to experience, and then some windows open up. These things are the only way. Trust on this path and follow, and things will happen beautifully. That's the only way here. Yat purushena havisha deva yajna matanvata. So he says, now what was there when all creation happened? If they had to do yajna, this creative creation had to do yajna. They used Purusha itself as the havis. The Purusha itself became the havis, the oblation or the offering. Deva yajna matanvata. The devas performed the sacrifice with Purusha itself as the oblation. Vasanto asya sit adyam. So then after creation happened, when creation happened and seasons were formed, then Vasanta became the adyam, the ghee. Grishma became the idhma, the fuel. Sharad, the autumn, became the offering, havis. Thus the seasons became your sacrifice, which means, what does seasons signify or symbolize? Seasons symbolize a cycle of life, death, creation, sustenance, and decay. This is what seasons also, it's a cyclical process. You have Grishma, you have the spring, you have the summer, you have the winter, and then you again have the spring, the summer, the winter, and so on and so forth. It keeps going on. This cycle also you offer. We had a long discussion about the cycle in Aditya Hridayam, if you remember, how we offer and try to break the cycle and come out of the cycle also. It's important to recognize we are in a pattern. I may react to the same instances, same incidences, same things that happened to me in the same way that I reacted 5 years ago. I am stuck in a pattern. The same kind of things come. இதே மாதிரி நடந்தது, எனக்கே இது நடந்துட்டே இருக்கு. You're stuck in a pattern because you have not changed. The same things will keep occurring to you. Why do we think we attract the same kind of things repeatedly? It's because somewhere we have not come out of that pattern somewhere within us. There is some repeated pattern that's happening, which is why the same things are coming again and again. My guru says, as long as the same things come to you, understand you are in the same place. Seasons would have moved. You are in the same place. So, Vasanta, Grishma, Sharad, Ritu. All the 3 Ritus keep coming and going. And what? You offer them as a sacrifice. Offer the Grishma as, or the Vasanta as the ghee. Offer the Grishma or the summer as the fuel. Offer the autumn as the havis. or the oblative offering. When we do this, then the cycle slowly breaks. So he says, Yat Purushena Havishaha. So you start by offering the Purusha himself. And this, if you notice, this particular verse goes back to what in Bhagavad Gita, I think chapter 2 or chapter 4. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. So where everything is Brahman there. Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havihi, Havis, Brahma Agni, Brahma Agnau, Brahma is Agni, Brahmana Hutam, Ahutam is Brahman, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam. Through Brahma itself, you can go to who? Brahma. Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Through Brahman, you attain to Brahman. By what? Offering Brahman into what? Into Brahman. These are very, very, very extremely profound statements and very subtle. It's not something the intellect can understand. Right? It's something that the intellect may not be able to understand. But then when you observe the process inside, this is what is happening. Who else is existing within you? Who is consuming? Who is eating? Who is consuming? Who is digesting? Chapter 4, 24. Thank you, Meera. Who is eating? Who is consuming it? Who is digesting it? Who is assimilating it? Who is distributing it in the body? And who is also exuding the energy from that? Everything is that principle that is within us. So you perceive it that way. And the food is who? So if you consider yourself eating as a yajna, there is a fire that is burning, Jatharagni, and you're offering havis into it. Who is doing this? The havis that you're offering, food that is you're offering from the outside, that is also Brahman. Because it's in the world of creative principle. Same consciousness is Jada. Same consciousness in the Jada. Same consciousness in the Chaitanya. Same thing, you're offering it here. As I said, one particular Swamiji had recounted his experience of realization. That the experience of somehow the experience of unity with everything. He said when he had that experience for 3 days, he couldn't eat because the food and his hand, everything felt the same. It felt like me to him. So I'm eating myself. When he's eating, he doesn't know which is the food and which is the hand. Perception had become so completely integrated into the whole ecosystem. His perception had become so completely diversified that he didn't know what is I and what is that. So from that perspective, if you see, all of this is that Yat Purushena Havisha, use Purusha as the Havis itself when nothing is there. Then you've got the cycles created. Then you try to break the cycles. Vasanta Asyasid Ajyam Grishma Idma Sharad Havihi. Okay. So 5th and 6th talks about the creative principle, the process of creation, how creation has happened. And then in this creation, immediately he is also bringing in the moment creation happens. See, very beautifully Purusha Suktam introduces yajna at the start of creation itself. The moment there is creation, understand you've come into existence, yajna is your duty. You must do yajna. The argyam of Sandhya Vandanam as important, more important is the yajna or the argya that you do from inside. That I offer. Oh Bhagavan, I offer. The actions that I do, I offer. Japo jalpaha shilpam sakalam api mudra virachana. In Saundarya Lahari, Bhagavan Adi Shankara says this. All of this that I'm doing is your offering. It is an offering to you. When I'm lying down and sleeping, it is my namaskarams to you. When I'm walking, it is what is it? Parikrama to you. So this is a mental attitude that we develop. We recognize that the more I don't focus on receiving keeps coming. See, and understand the moment you're giving, you're opening up a window. And in that window, something will come in. We don't know what comes in. It could be not material, but something very beautiful, which we will realize much later also. We are not in a position to evaluate what is the right thing to give and receive, but we give. The attitude of giving. So the moment creation has happened, yat purushena havisha, the first verse is yajna. You have to do yajna. Deva yajnamatanvata. Devas are engaging in yajna. Vasanto asya sidajyam grishma idma sharad havihi. Om तच्छंयोरा वृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञाय गातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु भेषजं शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शञ्चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथाय इति समर्पयामि हरि ओम सद्गुरुभ्यः गुरुदेवा 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 हरि ओम।